Right guys, welcome back to the podcast, and I'm here today with Bri Crosbie and Kris Petersen, and both of these guys are well knowledged up on sort of like Scotland's sovereignty, things about Scotland's history, independence, and those sort of matters, and thought it'd be an interesting podcast to get yous on. And I can sit here and go, while you spit out tons of knowledge. So it'd be easy for me. So I don't know, one of you guys want to, maybe a wee bit about you, Bri. What do you do? What do you do for a living and stuff?
I'm a window cleaner.
Oh, nice one,
Clean windows.
Cool.
It's what I've done most of my life.
Aye.
I'm a father of 6. I've got 2 grandkids.
Oh, amazing.
But yeah, window cleaning is my job. Sovereignty is what I've been researching in Scotland. It's quite unique. We'll go into that a bit later, but
nice one, man.
To introduce Kris.
Aye, and Kris Petersen. What do you do for a living then, Kris?
So I'm a self-employed tour guide.
Yeah.
I've been doing tours in Edinburgh and Roslin Chapel and the area around Roslin for 13 years now.
Yeah.
And I do, during the summer I do private tours sort of all around Scotland to various historic and ancient sites.
Cool, man.
And,
cool.
I'm writing a book about various things to do with Roslin Chapel and Scotland and history, and sort of more alternative look at how things have happened that don't really generally get talked about.
Yeah. We've already pretty much had an unrecorded podcast before this podcast. We've been chatting about all sorts of angles that we'll probably not go into on here. It's just too much for you, maybe. So cool, man. Do one of you guys want to bring up any sort of subject straight away, or anything you're thinking of?
Basically, Kris has done a lot of research on the ley lines, which is fascinating, really fascinating. I've been doing a bit of research on the ley lines. I've not done too much. There's a guy called David Cowan. He's a guy from Scotland, Perthshire, which Kris says he knows. I've spoke to David a few times on the phone. I want to do a recording with him. The information the guy's got is amazing. I've never heard anybody discuss the subject matter as much as this guy. But I'm really interested to listen to what Kris has got to say about the ley lines. Yeah,
it's something that even myself I know about, but I don't know the ins and outs of it enough. But I know that a lot of places lie on these ancient sites, lie on these lines, and there's energy in the lines. And I don't know enough about
every castle, every court building, every hospital.
And it is still a subject that some people like turn their nose up at, though. Is it still something that people think's a load of nonsense and that?
Aye, pseudoscience, conspiracy.
Yeah. So I don't know enough about it, but I've seen enough about it to know it's a real thing. So I don't know I don't know all about it, but I know that there's tons of sites in straight lines running over continents, not just over one.
Yeah.
Aye. So you want to chat a wee bit, Kris? What?
Sure. So I think a good place to start would be the term ley line itself, because it's a bit of a, it's kind of, I'll go into it, but it's kind of misportrayed in some ways, and especially nowadays because it's become a really sort of popular thing. Like a lot of people are really into ley lines and you know, going to visit these sites and things. But essentially the term was coined in I think it was the 50s. There was a book called the Old Straight Track by a guy called Alfred Watkins. And he'd found something that's known as the Michael Line, which is down in the south of England. That basically crosses most of the landmass of the very south of England, going into Cornwall. And there's, I can't remember how many sites. I think round about 100 or so sites that mostly churches that are designated to St Michael. So the line is commonly known as the Michael Line, and he basically wrote a book whilst he was tracking that line, and he called it the Old Straight Track, and he coined the term ley line, and where it comes from
back
really
in the 50s.
Yeah, I think it was the 50s or 60s the book came out. And where that concept comes from is basically like our ancestors, the ancient druids and these kind of folk, they were looking to find the holy sites, and also they were looking for clean water. So your natural springs come out of the ground because of natural underground water seams, which is, I always say it's really interesting because you think about underground water streams. Now, what's a phrase we often hear that's almost the same words? Underground streams of knowledge.
All right.
It's like the druids weren't just following the invisible water, but they were also guardians of this invisible streams of knowledge that have been passed down, that I'm sure we'll delve into a wee bit. So yeah, it was two things: to find a charged, energy centre to create as their holy site, or to find water, because eventually some of them will lead to a spring, basically. Because when you have underground water,
they follow the ley lines.
Well, yeah, you could almost term the water lines as ley lines as well, because they're basically magnetic charge, magnetic flows of energy. So when the water's moving through the ground, because of the geology of the rock that it moves through, and because of the movement, it creates something called piezoelectricity, which is like a subtle electromagnetic force above the ground. And that's what we were talking about.
That's where the readings are coming from.
Yeah. And that's how your dowsing rods move around and your pendulum starts to swing, because it's picking up on that.
Could you get the dowsing rods out charge, just to show people?
Yeah. So this is it's not your typical one. These are ones that fold up and fit in your pocket. These ones are brass. You can get them in copper. You can get them in steel. But that's basically what it is, and it'll move around and follow the energy, and then here it'll be just bouncing around the place, because we've obviously got lots of electric cables, and there's us. We're electromagnetic beings. Our blood is red because it's full of iron.
Best on your own, not next to another human and stuff.
Yeah.
These damn humans always get in the way.
So you can use these, or other people use pendulums. You can use different things. So originally, you actually used sticks.
I've seen people with just sticks with
like
little bends
a
in
wishbone.
them.
Wishbone shape. So you have two prongs like that, and then a straight coming down, and then you hold the two prongs and you walk along, and you basically wherever you get to a point where there's an energy, the point at the front, the single stick will bounce.
So back in ancient days, they were probably using sticks and that. They had that technique.
Absolutely.
Cool, man. Interesting. You got anything on the ley lines, Bri?
The ley lines are fascinating, so fascinating. Well, one I've been looking into is the Albion line, the spine of Albion, which comes all the way from the Isle of Wight, goes right up to Pitlochry. Have you heard of Stephen Beattie? Have you looked into Stephen?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
His Facebook page is filled with videos and stuff about the ley lines, and he's looking into the spine of Albion as well. And I reckon the ley lines are the answer to where we are right now.
And like ancient knowledge and stuff.
Yeah, because you can get knowledge for the ley lines, you can get energy for the ley lines, you can get healed by the ley lines. So that's the
stuff that's interesting as well.
Holyrood Park, there's a ley line going through Holyrood Park. So Calton Hill and Arthur Seat are both extinct volcanoes. So Holyrood Park's in a volcanic hub. So what's called a volcanic hub. And Edinburgh Castle's a volcanic hub as well. And it's David Comyns' research that I got this from. Edinburgh Castle, there's a field of energy that leaves Edinburgh Castle like spokes of a bicycle wheel. Right? And it's the same with Calton Hill. There's a field of energy that leaves Calton Hill like the spokes of a bicycle wheel, right? So you imagine like
it's like a junction. No,
it's a portal or something. It's an energy. It's energy is going somewhere. So you think like a king in Edinburgh Castle, right?
I'm quickly thinking almost like the pyramids.
Similar,
I'm jumping the gun.
You've got a king.
Slow down, man.
You've got a king sitting in the castle, right? And he's got a gold crown on his head. Right, this crown's got diamonds, rubies, emeralds. It's just got all these gemstones around it, and he's sitting in this energy field. Like they're doing some ceremonial stuff. Like they're tuning into something. Right, and I've tuned into it a wee bit, kinda, right, accidentally, right. So I've been doing during lockdown. I've been taking a sound system up Colton Hill, right, for mental health. Just doing a fire pit and a sound system to try and get people out, try and get people interacting, kind of stuff. I've done it for a year. I've done it most at the end of 2020 into 2021. I've done it most of 2021, and I've done it most of last year as well, right? Unaware it was a volcanic plug, right?
Oh, yeah.
And this energy field's there, right? So as I say, I was doing that for mental health to try and get people out, and a strange thing happened. About a year into doing this, right, I found out why Colton Hill's called Colton Hill, and it's, you split the name in two, so you've got Cal, right, which is Latin for heat, right, and you've got Ton, which is Latin for sound, right. So Colton Hill is named after the god of sound and the god of heat.
All right.
Right? And I've been going up there all during lockdown with a sound system and a fire pit. Right? So I'm celebrating the gods on that hill.
Aye.
Right? By all this energy field things happening.
In that specific area.
So again, like David Cowan in his research again, he's researching the stone circles. He put a CD player on top of a stone on one of the stone circles, and he played all different types of music through the CD player. And each different type of music would create a different energy wave coming through the stone, right? And he played classic rock music, he called it, right? I think it was AC/DC or something that was playing in the background. And there was no wavelines came through the stone. There was just one line, and it went down, and it went all the way along the ground. So it's like the rock music was having a negative effect to the stone, which was creating this energy thing. So I reckon, just looking into David's research and me being up that hill and just feeling things, I reckon if you get people up that hill and you play the right vibrational music, you could heal people.
Oh, aye.
Properly heal people.
Activate them.
Aye, because that's what, and Chris can maybe follow on for here, but the churches.
I'm jumping more guns again, but then that's again sort of related to monks and that, humming at certain levels.
Right,
it's all connected into this, eh? Aye.
Well, I reckon the churches were something before they were churches. I reckon they were healing centres, just with the geometry and stuff of the building. And the way the organ, the acoustics and the way the organs sound and stuff.
I'm just like a few wee steps behind you, because I know about all that too. The church, and they've resonated out the top of the building, and
so there's something, a magical.
That's why you sing in church.
There's magic there, because they've obviously placed the church on a PowerPoint, right? And I reckon these churches were built to heal people, and the church have overtook it and called it something else, and that's why when you walk into
Big
these
Pharma
buildings,
getting involved, and
you walk into these buildings, you feel a harmony, you feel something, and I think the church have kind of turned that into, people think they're feeling something that they're not feeling. And they're disrupting the connection.
Or because it's a church, they're associating it with
which
Catholicism or whatever the church is orientated to.
Yeah,
but make it a
before those
experience.
religions, the older religions were connected to these
exactly.
ideas.
Well, that's what we were just talking about outside, Chris. If you could.
Well, this is something I've been, especially in the last few months, looking into very deeply, is how the Druids, which were, our ancient ancestors of this land, basically when they started to really fall apart and when Christianity started to kind of take a hold of society, they were basically told, go and join these other groups, but continue doing what you're doing, but keep it a secret. And so I've been, obviously, because it's been kept a secret for so many hundreds of years, it's kind of impossible to really tell what's going on. But if you know where to look, and if you know the symbols, you can start to see
signs.
How the knowledge has been passed down and continued. And this is something I've been tracking a lot, and you can see, it's quite clear as day that a lot of the earliest medieval churches and cathedrals are all full of what would be deemed as pagan imagery.
All right.
You know, so a lot of people would be like, why is that there? Were the early Christians a bit more pagan? Probably, yeah, but it was because the guys that were carving and building these churches were druids.
Ah, right.
Yeah, and they've been, you know, kind of translated into the church system and various other factions of society. Like,
these druid people.
Your high druid would be your priest, and
Aye.
then the next one up would be your bishop. And then the highest druid was called your archbishop. What's the highest bishop in the church? Your archbishop. They literally just overlaid everything on top.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, where the druids had their temple sites on these junctures of earth energies, where the energies are really strong, the Christianity came along, built the churches on all those points.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of the people that are researching ley lines are talking about churches and cathedrals or castles, because it's where the energy's at, and the Christians literally just came along and took it all.
Aye. God, that's deep, man. I can't even comment, man. What's that? Aye. God, that's nuts, eh? Aye, there was something I was going to comment there, but I just let you talk because I was.
And
like,
it's, you know,
I'm going to punch in with something stupid and sound daft.
Aye, you're all good. We're all learning. That's the thing, you know. It's like even the knowledge that I've got in the years I've been studying, I'm constantly learning new things. You know.
Oh, that's what I was going to say.
Everybody else is like
the druids are they like? I mean, this is totally created in my own mind, but there's maybe something to it. Are they connected some bloodliney way to ancient people like Egyptians and people like that? Is there some sort of connection between these people, or not? Not at all.
Not really. I mean, druid itself is a very wide term. The only actual history we have about the druids is from Julius Caesar, which is very little. He kind of there's very little actual sort of recorded stuff about them that he wrote down. But he's the one that we get the word druid from, and that comes from he observed them doing their ceremonies, which were always on the edge of a forest, on the very edge of a town. And this was like seen as a liminal space because it was like the edge of civilization and the edge of the wilderness, the wild, the natural world, in specifically planted avenues of oak trees, so they were called oak groves. And the word druid comes from the Gaelic word for oak, which is druach or dewar. So they were literally the people of the oak trees.
Nice.
That's where it comes from.
Had another comment to make. It's gone as well. It's too much information coming in my brain. I think you told me about 4 things I didn't know there, and one of them I was going to say.
It's weird how Gaelic sort of seems to be the foundation of a lot of languages, eh? Just like
somebody told me about the connection to Flemish.
Flemish.
Aye, Flemish in Norway. Is that right? Flemish and Gaelic are very alike, and I found that amazing. I think I was playing PlayStation one with some guys from Europe, and I was chatting away and laughing about the Scottish accent and stuff like that, and going, well, I shouldn't even be speaking this language, mate. And they're like, what are you talking, like, European guys and that, like, well, I shouldn't be speaking English, I should be speaking Gaelic or Gaelic. And that's the Scottish language and that, and they're like, oh, right, like literally Europeans that weren't too clued up, and then there was this one other boy, he's like, yeah, it's very similar to Flemish in Norway. Is it? All right, you're teaching me now, mate. And
it's basically Hebrew as well.
Is it?
Just about to say that. Yeah.
That's crazy. So it's an ancient language.
Well, it's Gaelic's considered one of the root languages. So there's four root languages. Aramaic, which Hebrew came out of. I've just forgotten the other one now. Sanskrit and Gaelic. It's like the original languages, and they all come from the same root, because phonetically speaking, they've all got the same parts basically. Yeah. And you can, and like you were saying with the Hebrew, it's something that's always fascinated me when I discovered that a few years ago. You can translate Gaelic into Hebrew or vice versa, and you don't have to change any of the words. They're all in the right place. And that's a sign that it comes from the same phonetic language. Which is mind blowing considering we're over here and Hebrew's spoken over there.
Aye. I've always been interested in all of those connections of the world when apparently we couldn't travel. You know, like, so it was like, well, why are the people in ancient cultures like looking at the same stuff as another ancient culture on the other side of the world, and why have they designed a temple in the same design, sitting on the same angles on the other side of the world? That stuff's always amazed me. Like, there's something going on. It's not coincidence.
Not
Anyone
at all.
out there going,
Not
just
at all.
coincidence? Aye. These tribes all just happened to build them exactly the same position, in the same way,
Perfectly geometrically
worshipping the
placed.
same sort of things.
Yeah.
Aye. And it's all just coincidence, eh?
Oh, aye. Total coincidence. Total coincidence.
So basically, they're all lined up with natural law, aren't they? With the solstices, the
100%.
equinoxes.
Yeah, all lined up with the stars, eh?
Right.
And then that's where you can get deep into it. And there is people that are like, maybe they just all wanted to line up with the stars. Aye, maybe they all, they thought, let's line up with the stars, eh? And round the other side of the planet, they just happen to have the same idea. Yeah, let's just line up with the stars, eh? Like, no, they all knew something.
Yeah.
So what do you reckon, Chris? You saying that the ley lines had piezo electricity and stuff in them,
They do, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Do you reckon these churches and cathedrals and stuff were harnessing electricity?
Yeah, I mean that's what any kind of temple site, and I say temple site, that could be anything from a stone circle or a burial mound to a church or a cathedral, or even a Masonic lodge, perhaps. These are all chosen to be at a place where there is this focal point of energy, and that's why they're going to be there. And often the buildings will be created in such a way that they'll be working or converting that energy, so to speak.
What do you reckon they were doing with that energy?
Initially, I think it was all good. They understood it very well, and they were these places were created, and the people that were going there and doing whatever they were doing were there to create a balance. Because in ancient times, from meteor showers to climate change, which is not a new thing, it's been happening forever. Climate change was going on back then, and obviously it created a lot of issues, especially in the beginnings of agriculture, sort of 10,000
Yeah, you
years
got
ago.
lots of ancient bad winters and hot summers recorded, like in 1910 or something. There was one in the 1900s.
Loads,
there was,
loads
and
going
then
all the way back.
there
was. I'll talk about it later. There was a mini ice age. It's called during the 1500s when Roslin Chapel was built.
I remember hearing something about it, and the mini ice age. Yeah. Aye, crazy.
Yeah.
Aye.
So these were basically places where they were working with these energies and their understandings of it to create a harmony and a balance. And
That's crazy.
That's what it was all about.
That's real interesting too, because I was just watching something the other night where this guy had a chart, some scientific chart showing the temperature changes on the planet throughout time. I can't remember exact date, but the guy was like really enthusiastic on the video, and he's going, "Look, guys, back at this point, there was a sudden steep chill, and it lasted for a period of time, and then it all came back to normal again." That must be tying into the date you're telling me about this mini ice age, eh?
Yep. I think it was the 1430s until about 1520.
You know how they
That
got
was
the
roughly
readings?
the period.
It's a global mini ice age.
It was more in Northern Europe, so we were hit pretty hard by it. And it
so-
wasn't, it's called the mini ice age, but it wasn't. There wasn't glaciers obviously covering the Earth. It was basically extended and much colder winters.
And then
So
it
it was
took
going down to like -20, and winter was.
it sort of
lasting-
slowed down the warming, and it all had to catch up again.
Yeah.
I remember, and they got their readings from drilling through the ice,
Yeah.
and by something that happens to the ice, they could tell how hot it was there, and they could make a chart out of this from measuring the ice,
Right.
and they
Like
they
reading the
drilled-
tree.
they drilled through the ice. They completed drilling through 3 miles of ice 20 years ago, and they're still just now, for the last 20 years, still studying the drillings that they done
Wow.
nearly 20 years ago. And they've now got all these charts they've developed over the last 20 years. And this guy was saying this is precise. And you can see and man, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's going back to the ice age. You're going, and it's like a really cold point. And he's like, that's the ice age, that part. And then you can see it's warmed up. But he's going, we're coming more to modern day. But look, guys, it spiked really cold there just for a short time and then came back again.
Yeah.
That must be what you were talking about.
Yeah, I reckon it. Yeah,
Mad.
must be. And we've gone through these natural cycles of cooling and warming all the time.
Yeah.
Global warming is not a new thing, and as far as I'm concerned, it's nothing to do with CO2.
Yeah.
You take CO2 out the atmosphere, and plants feed off CO2.
Yeah.
That's what makes them green.
Mm-hmm.
It's what creates photosynthesis and all the rest of it. If you remove all that, then everything dies.
Well, the big one, get my YouTube shut down now. The big one that always got me just in the argument, some intellectual said the car exhausts are nothing compared to the volcanoes around the planet pumping straight into the atmosphere, and that we're seriously thinking little cars with exhaust pipes are doing all that. When there's big giant things pointing right to the sky, plummeting out into the atmosphere, and like, how could these little exhausts be doing anything worse than what they're doing?
Absolutely.
Like, so that was read that like 10 years ago, 10 years ago, and I was like, wow, that was the first thing that made me go, God, that's just common sense, eh?
Totally. And how many billions of years has the Earth been here, and has there been volcanoes popping off all the time?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Aye. Cool, man. Well, do you want to move on to another wee sort of subject? It's quite good though. We were moving on to climate change there, but we better not go too deep into climate change, or else, like, good, I'll have FBI around the back trying to take me away. So maybe Bri wants to move on to a bit of like sovereignty stuff. That's like your speciality. And I'm gonna grab, you carry on chat. I'm gonna grab an ashtray so I can have a cigarette.
Sovereignty, it's quite a deep subject actually. I'm still learning for it. You always learn for it. It's basically your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions is your sovereignty. So you've got to try and master your thoughts and your emotions and your actions to be sovereign. So it's basically being in control of your thoughts, emotions, and actions, and respecting everybody else's thoughts, emotions, and actions. As soon as you infringe on somebody else's sovereignty, or suppress somebody else's sovereignty in any way, shape or form, you forfeit your own. That's how natural law works. It's like cause and effect. Whatever you cause has an effect. That effect was by you. It's like a reflection. It comes back to you. But sovereignty in Scotland is quite unique. People didn't even know what it means.
I'm not totally
to begin with.
Clued up on it. Oh yeah,
it's basically just what I explained. It's not a king or a queen or somebody above you or whatever. It's you being in control of you. Like, I'm king of me, you're king of you. I can't tell you what to do. You can't tell me what, unless somebody's acting out of conduct. And as soon as somebody's acting out of conduct, like, they've lost their sovereignty. Everybody's sovereign over them. I've now got a position to tell you off. You know what I mean? But in Scotland, sovereignty is preserved in the people, which is quite unique. But I mean, globally, everybody is sovereign. We are all sovereign. But in Scotland, it's protected in the people. But in England, it was the Crown that was sovereign. The Crown was sovereign over the people. But then when the Union came into play, which this is what doesn't really get discussed, when the Union came into play, in England, sovereignty got removed for the Crown and got given to Parliament. And Parliament became sovereign, right? But that doesn't supersede the constitutional position of sovereignty in Scotland. And people didn't even realise that Scotland has a constitution, and we do. And it's the Claim of Rights, 1689, and the Declaration of Arbroath, which is our constitution. In England, the constitution's the Magna Carta and the Bill of Rights. They're similar documents, just different language. And that, the beautiful thing, as I said, is it's enshrined in the people. Like, the people in Scotland were above Westminster, were above the Crown. Like, there's no higher authority in Scotland than a Scot. Like, we are the highest authority of this land. The people of Scotland are not.
There are no kings or.
We're all kings and queens.
And there is no like Scottish monarchy anymore.
Well, the thing is, the monarchy in Scotland was, when we had a monarchy in Scotland, when we had a king or we had a queen, it was King and Queen of Scots. The people's king. Not Scotland.
All right.
That's why the Queen of England.
Mary Queen of Scots. And
exactly. That's why the Queen of England's designed as Queen of England. She can't be Queen of Scotland. She can't be Queen of the UK. Because I'm King of Scotland. So are you. It's like, belongs to us. But the king, he can be King of Scots with our consent. Needs our consent. And what people didn't notice as well was when he took his oath quite recently. His oath was to uphold the Scots' claim of right. He's to uphold our sovereignty.
Aye.
So basically, we're equal.
Mm-hmm. So
we're equal to the king. He's not above us.
Mm-hmm. Aye, so uphold our sovereignty, as in he can't take our sovereignty off us and then become sovereign over us.
He's got to respect the claim of right. He can't supersede it. He can't supersede us.
Basically can't become our king.
No,
yeah.
He can't. He can, but with our consent.
Aye.
He can become King of Scots.
Mm-hmm.
Can he become King of Scotland?
Aye. Mm-hmm.
Because that's.
How does that sit on like Commonwealth countries then? If he
that's
the King
the
of
beautiful
England,
thing
what
of
is
it,
he to
right?
Australia?
See what I'm.
Because they used to like in Australia, Canada.
If you think it on this level, right?
Their queen and that.
Scotland is independent.
Mm.
We are. Sovereign is independence. They're the same thing. They're synonymous with each other. You can't be sovereign and no independent. You can't be independent and no sovereign. They mean the same thing.
Mm.
And I lost my train of thought there.
Probably my fault. I take the blame.
They mean the same thing. And the train of thought has gone, mate. Sorry, I was going on to something there.
I don't even know. It probably was my fault though, so I probably got you.
But it's quite unique in Scotland that the position we're in.
Yeah.
That's where I was going.
He can't become our king.
Basically, Scotland, the way I see it, Scotland's right now, and for the last 10 years or so, we've been in a Game of Thrones scenario. It's psychological. It's psychological. Your sovereignty can't be taken from you, but it can be surrendered. And that's psychologically trying to get us to surrender it into the EU.
I've heard pals of mine talk about we don't need to vote for independence or get it given to us. We could just take it.
It's a personal thing. It's not a collective thing.
And also that we can just one of my mates, I'll not name him, talks about that we can just declare it.
You can just declare it. It's already there.
The country could come together, and
it's already there. You just need to.
The leader of Holyrood could literally stand up to Westminster and say, "Nah, we're declaring it."
The SNP could
apparently.
The SNP could walk out of Westminster and not go back because they've got the authority. They're the ones taking the authority back to Westminster.
Yeah.
So the people are all these people voting for the SNP. You're surrendering your sovereignty to them.
Aye.
Right? You're become a child. You need somebody else to look after your affairs. So you need these people to look after your affairs because you can't deal with your affairs efficiently. So you're surrendering your sovereignty to them to look after your affairs, and they're taking it to Westminster and letting Westminster stomp all over it. Can you not remember when the SNP done they walked out of Westminster? No, like a few years ago.
I think aye.
They actually walked out because there was a disagreement and they just all walked out.
There was they made a decision on Scotland without while they weren't in court. I remember something about that.
All they had to
do while there was nobody there representing us.
All they had to do was no go back. Why did they go back with our sovereignty? Once they walked out, that was it there and then. They could have brought it back to Scotland, and that was it.
Yeah.
And
people don't know these things.
And it was the same,
didn't know at the time.
It was the same with that landslide vote with the SNP that got the referendum. That was an independence vote right there. Yeah. But that was it right there. But like they wanted to put us through this as a brainwashing programme was the referendum.
Yeah.
Because what happened in the referendum, right, and this is what the people of Scotland need to accept, they need to swallow it and they need to do something about it, right, was that yes vote wasn't an independence vote. They weren't voting for independence, right, because the yes vote, right, you were voting for the Queen of England to be head of state, right. The no vote, you are voting to stay in the Union.
Aye.
Either way, you're still in the fucking Union, mate.
Aye.
So it wasn't, right, and everybody that voted aye, right, I never voted a solid agenda. I knew I was sovereign before the vote, so I never voted, right, but everybody that voted aye, right, and you all need to accept this and do something about it. You all voted to be a subject to the Queen of England. Is what happened.
Aye.
And until the people of Scotland realise the severity of what happened back then, there'll be no change.
Aye. It's like people were. I remember back then, folk were debating all sorts of things, and there was a lot of people that were up for independence, but still keeping the pound. And there was the whole thing. So you want to still have the Queen's head on your money. You want to leave, but you still want the Queen's. And I remember going, that is a bit of a head fuck. Like I was like,
and I even said it to people, like, because I was trying to get people not to vote because I could see it. And I'm like, look, you're voting for the Queen of England, unelected head of state. And the answer I got back for everybody was, get our independence first, then we can get rid of her.
Aye.
And I'm just like, what? An unelected head of state, how can you get rid of an unelected head of state?
Aye.
You got to vote her out, like.
Aye, no way. Aye.
Like,
you have to actually.
It was a no-brainer.
It can't be done politically.
And
in a
see,
way.
for me, during that referendum, it was horrendous for me to witness, because I could see what was happening. And I was dreading either vote coming in. I was dreading it. See if the yes vote came in, it's been the biggest party that Scotland's ever seen. Scotland can party. We all know Scotland can party. I wouldn't be able to party with you.
Aye.
That's where I was. And I was like watching this. You know what I mean? And I'm like, what is going to be the outcome? They're going to celebrate something that they're not celebrating.
Aye.
So I can't celebrate it. It was fucking horrendous.
You feel like
mate.
they don't fully understand even what they're
but
celebrating.
even see when I can remember when I was listening on the radio.
That's like a clause, isn't it? Because I'm thinking it's like the whole one world order government, and it's almost like a wee clause like, well, even if they do win this independence thing, we'll still actually be the head of their state anyway. So it was a new world order agenda, the independence referendum. Aye.
It was a programming tool, right? Because Brexit was a programming tool as well. Because when you look at the unique principle of sovereignty in Scotland, right, and then you look at the number one agenda of the UN and the New World Order is to obliterate sovereignty. Personal sovereignty, national sovereignty, even the monarchy has to go.
The UN came in after the war, and that's when that began.
As a safe clause.
Yeah, that we won't have another one of those now.
Totally,
aye. You need us. We're here to make everything safe for you.
Aye. And it's just it's a takeover, So when you look at that position Scotland's in, and you look at the position that the New World Order's in to obliterate sovereignty globally, Scotland's a major target, mate. When the people are sovereignty's enshrined in the people for eternity.
I've never known enough about it, but I've always been aware that we must be a problem to this world plan. I've always known that because like we're mad about our independence. The world's talking about coming as one, and Scotland's busy going. We're
the only system designed to defeat the New World Order.
Problem.
We can defeat it.
Aye.
Like our system is designed. Our system's designed for what's happening now. The ancestors wrote all that. For now.
Aye, totally.
Know what I mean?
Aye, that makes sense.
All these people know
that was all planned for this coming.
Aye. So we are a major target, right?
Yeah.
So the way I see it,
there is some other countries too, eh?
No, but they're all targets. But like,
are in a similar situation as us, though. There is some other countries.
Everybody's sovereign, really. It's just constitutional things that make it.
Anything that stands out must be a worry to the elite or whatever. And was like Hong Kong getting their independence back, would that have been a negative to them? Like, whoa, that's a division again. When they gave Hong Kong their independence, that was right. Hong Kong got their independence back, didn't they? Was it Hong Kong? Aye, because they were owned they were colonised. I think so they got
rings a bell, mate.
That would have been a negative in their eyes probably, but they managed to do it democratically and leave. But I bet you the elite must have been like, damn.
But what is that all about though? Is it did they really get their independence?
Exactly.
Is it
is it similar what they were doing with us?
Aye, you know what I mean? Just to make this global thing look like we're seeing something different from what Hong Kong are seeing.
It's funny. I thought I was going to be kind of the opposite of what you were thinking, because quite often I say folk are like, do you want independence, mate? And I'm like, aye, I'm not really bothered. And I think I watch so much stuff that I'm like, oh, if Westminster are in charge and just a bunch of greedy folk and didn't really care and we're all living these lives of stress, what will this other big concrete building full of Scottish politicians be doing? Are they just going to continue on life of stress, just a bunch of Scottish folk running
Well, that's
it?
the thing,
But
right?
actually, I think you're almost agreeing with me, because it's like, yeah, we don't need this body. We are independent and we don't.
We didn't need
Well,
government.
we
Yeah.
do and we don't, and I think there's a big issue with the whole erasing the monarchy, which is a kind of new theme at the moment.
Yeah.
That a lot of people don't realise the monarchy is actually really important. Like, you know, I'm not for the royal family, and yes, most of them are German. They shouldn't be here anyway. But that's another rabbit hole. But you know, the actual reason why sovereignty was created in that way, the monarchical system, was that the monarch was there as a safeguard for the people. She or he is the people's king or queen, and she signs off all the legislation. The courts and the law are all there to give us rights and us protection.
That's one thing I always
from
thought
the
was
rich
quite
and
cool.
powerful doing away with all our rights. So if the monarchy is absorbed by the government, aka Westminster, which is what they're trying to do,
Gives the
I
government
think
more
it's,
power.
Oh,
that's
it's
quite
massive
bad actually.
news,
Yeah,
because they'll absorb all the legal power that the crown has,
and a lot of my stuff.
and have the power to do away
Yeah,
with
yeah.
our human rights. And
Nobody to
everything.
Nobody to
with a
pass things
signature.
by. Yeah.
It's
And,
really dangerous.
I spend a lot of my time saying negative things about the royal family mainly. I'm not like a total royal hater, but it's just more common when I'm talking about the royal family. It's sort of negative. I think most of the world's like that now.
Yeah.
But there is the odd thing, and I was quite impressed that I learnt recently with the Queen dying. For 15 years, they've been trying to privatise the NHS, and they've been putting it to her. And for 15 years, she's been going, no, we're not doing it. And she's been knocking it back. So I was like, that's like one sort of thing where I'm like, well, that's quite wow, the Queen's actually been going, no, we're not doing it. And they've been going to her for 15 years. Look, we need to no, we're not doing it. Do something else to get money. Keep that. And I thought, well, that's one good thing, I think, the Queen, that I'm like,
Is it not already privatised though?
I'm not sure.
I don't know either, but like I've
but
heard it's been happening for a while.
well, so there's
Don't know
the thing
what
is,
stage we're at.
it's probably actually just a massive thing to get us all talking, this whole privatising of the NHS, and keep us concentrating on that rather than other things.
It could just be something to make you think that the Queen was doing a good thing when
I know.
it never really happened.
Yeah.
It was
Well, I
so
know
years ago.
I know that some people were when she died, the NHS army that are like passionate about it, and that we're all going, what's Charles going to do when it comes to him? What's he going to do when he gets the letter? Is he going to pass it? And then all these other folk are going, Charles is doing everything exactly like his mum done, because he learnt from his mum, and everyone thinks that Charles is going to just deliver everything the same way his mum done. So they're hoping that he won't, but other folk are going, no, Charles will sign
He's
it off.
clearly doing the opposite already, like.
Aye, is
That's
he?
what it's looking
Is
like.
he?
Oh,
Right,
yeah.
aye, cool,
Yeah,
because I don't know
That's what
enough.
it's looking like.
Aye, so he might sign off he might be the one to sign it off to privatise it. And folk are saying, people that are royalists say that love the royal family, like, the Queen would be really angry with them, kind of like. But that's common in royalty, that
It's all
one king
scripted
holds,
anyway,
a new king comes in and things change.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, totally.
And
And I
then-
think it depends on the individual. Like you were saying, I do think the Queen was quite good in that, you know, she was not signing off things.
aye.
She was looking after the people in that respect to
Yeah.
a degree. But at the end of the day, when it comes to, you know, being in that level of power, you might look like the king or the queen, but there's a whole structure above you and a structure above that.
Aye,
You know,
aye.
They've all got the money and the agendas, and they're moving the chess pieces, and you're just a pawn to them.
That's what I'm
essentially.
always interested in, because getting into a bit of conspiracy now. When people say conspiracy, it's just a word. Some people hear the word conspiracy and go, woohoo, tinfoil hats.
With a conspiracy.
And then other people hear the word conspiracy and understand it's an alternative theory. It's not like get your tinfoil hat out. Anyway, I've explained what that means because I can't remember what I was going to say now. Well, cool, man. Anything else on the...
Aye, we move on to the monarchy.
Yeah. Yeah, let's get away from that. But I was like, enough about the Queen.
Aye. Enough of they guys, eh?
I think a good piece I wanted to get in was in terms of a wrap up on the monarchy. This will be in terms of Scotland and England and the UK. I think that's a really important piece in the union of the crowns, as it were. Yes, we have a separate legal system and everything else, but it was a Scots king that went down and took the throne of England and created the United Kingdom.
Yeah, I know.
Would you say that the crowns are united?
1600. What's that?
Would you say the crowns are united?
No, the crowns aren't united. There's a united kingdom, but they can never be united with us because of what you were saying about the legal system. Our legal system's older than England's. And it's completely different. That's why we have
and there's
a
things
completely separate high court.
Stop things from being
and
possible.
I think one of the biggest reasons why independence hasn't happened yet, because even the people in charge of these things don't know how to navigate the difference in our legal systems, and they literally don't know how to work it out.
Our independence is in Scots law.
unraveling.
Scots law is our independence.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, but it's not in England, which is where the crown is now.
And that's where we need to stand. As soon as everybody recognises Scots law and stands in Scots law, there's your independence right there. Yeah. And you're not a Scotsman unless you stand within Scots law.
Yeah.
So if you're accepting any of this legislation or that's coming from elsewhere, you're not a Scotsman.
Yeah.
You need to stand with Scots law. Our independence is secured within Scots law.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what they're hiding for us.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the mad thing is, we are already independent. We have we have independent banks. We have our own currency,
right.
Our own legal system. It's all there because we were independent already.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's all been maintained within the umbrella.
We already are. Right. It's been secured. But when you read the Act of the Union, our sovereignty and independence, laws, customs, traditions, everything's preserved within the Treaty of the Union. Which we are independent. So you think it on that scale, right? All it's going to take, right? We are independent. Fact. I can prove it, right? It's there, right? So you see if it was the land.
We are independent, but we're just locked into this union.
We're just brainwashed, right? So you think about it. If it was to land on every doorstep tomorrow morning, we are independent. We always have been. We've been hoodwinked. There's the information. There's the proof. There's the history. There's the Constitution. Read it. If that was to drop on Scotland's doorstep tomorrow, imagine the party. Imagine that. You just need that collective flipping consciousness for everybody to realise at the same time, you can't stop energy, mate. You can't stop that.
What actually needs to happen to be fully I mean, you're saying we're independent, but to literally stop Westminster from telling us what to do.
What needs to happen, right? See if the people of Scotland never placed a vote, didn't vote, you'd be independent the next day.
Oh, right, aye. Because we're not taking part. Aye, we're not taking part in your
You're
thing.
surrendering your sovereignty by vote. So the whole of Scotland just didn't vote. Think about it. What makes you think you're going to get independence in a Westminster election?
Yeah, I know.
Why would you vote in a Westminster election to get independence?
Yeah.
Right, and they've got independence politically. Politically, it's tied up. And also, it can't happen politically, right? And this is why.
Also, quickly, why? Just these things do really strike me out. Why the fuck are Westminster holding a vote for us when we've got our own government building there and everything? We could hold our own.
That's the thing. We don't. Aye. We don't have our own government building, right? So let's paint it up for you, right? So you've got Scotland and you've got England, right? Two different countries, right? It became a union, right? And so you had the Scottish Parliament and you had the English Parliament. Two separate parliaments, two separate jurisdictions, right? These two countries came together, right? And they created... Westminster then became the Parliament for both, right? So the Scottish Parliament's still alive with full authority. It's just sleeping, it's just resting, right? And the old Scottish Parliament's a court of session on the Royal Mile, right? So what they done was they gave us...
That's the old Parliament.
That's the old Parliament. It's still sitting there with full power, right?
St Giles Chapel.
So what they've done is they gave us this Holyrood, right? So you've got the two Westminster and Scotland's Parliament and Westminster were two separate parliaments. Then they became the one Parliament, Westminster, right? So Westminster would be the child of the Scotland and England Parliament, right? Scotland and England's mum and dad, right? And then you get Westminster as a child, right? Westminster gave us Holyrood. So Holyrood's the grandchild. So, right? So Westminster's got authority over Holyrood. It's not our Parliament. Right, so what they've done is they've gave us this Parliament to make us think we've got a Parliament.
But our
right?
Parliament's actually rest.
And they've got the common tongue, the common dialect, spouting out this gibberish. But because it's coming through the common tongue, sounds fucking good, eh? You hear what they're saying, they're fucking brilliant, eh? But it's just double speak.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's just
so
nonsense.
I see what you're saying now.
So what we really need to...
So we can bring... if Holyrood got independence, they're still going to be under an umbrella, but they're just not going to be under Westminster.
I'll explain to you why it can't happen politically, right? Is you heard of the Privy Council oath, right? The Privy Council oath is every head of every political party has to take the Privy Council oath. You didn't get the position without taking the oath, right? And the Privy Council oath is to uphold the Union and to protect the Crown from foreign powers. Right? What are the sovereign people of Scotland to the Crown?
Foreign powers.
Foreign power.
Right.
So it's the First Minister's job to protect the Crown for foreign powers. Their job under oath is to protect the Crown for us. That's oath, right? So if they were to get us independence, if they were marvellously to manufacture us independence, they'd get done for treason.
Aye. And
it cannot happen politically. It's tied up.
Something made sense in my head when you were saying there. Yeah. It's not possible that our Parliament isn't in a position where it can be independent, because it's not the original Parliament. Yeah. That's the one that can be independent, basically.
We need to wake that one up. In fact, we didn't even need to wake a Parliament up. We just need to wake ourselves up. We just need to wake ourselves up. It's enshrined in the people.
God, that's difficult to get around to, though. It feels difficult anyway to me. Like,
not really, because like he was saying, sovereignty is about not playing the game, because we're all sovereign. As soon as you play the game, you give the power away. You know? So if you just decide, I'm not voting, then that's the reset. If everybody makes that decision, or enough people make that decision, that's the reset. It has to go back to zero.
And then what happens there then? If everybody literally went, no, we're not voting, what actually happens technically?
What are they called? Like, they're called delegates.
Does that mean like the SNP and that are literally knocked out as well? Like,
they're called delegates because you're delegating them. They're our delegates, so we just didn't delegate them, and they've not got a position.
And the Scottish Parliament's just basically, as you say, the child of Westminster. So, like, by saying we're not doing what Westminster say, we're actually not doing what you say either, because you're not the real, real Parliament.
Tories,
aye.
It's just tartan Tory policy coming out of Holyrood. They painted up to look Scottish.
So I can totally see now, like, I didn't know what this was really all about before, and I've seen a few of your things, and you're like, people need to know about this stuff, and I was kind of like, people know about independence and that. I was kind of like, when I was seeing you go,
people in Scotland didn't know we've got a constitution, mate, I find fascinating. I find that just blows my mind. It's the grandfather of all constitutions.
I knew we had that. I always thought it was quite cool that we had. I just thought, like, I've known for years that, and thought it was quite cool that we've got our own constitution, a wee bit like America has.
Well, you have America have.
They copied ours.
So they have.
See, I think
have Tartan Day on this. It used to be on the 6th of April. It's now changed to. It was just still a day there. It used to be on the 6th of April, the day of the Declaration of Arbroath, right? So they have Tartan Day, which celebrates our constitution, which is their constitution. So they're celebrating our Independence Day that we know fuck all about. How fucked up's that?
I know,
They're actually celebrating our Independence Day on Tartan Day, which celebrates their constitution. We know fuck all about it.
They probably know nothing about the origins of what they're doing anyway.
It's like
so much has been hidden.
But it's so important in Scotland is this information when it comes to sovereignty, and the fact we have a constitution is if you wake up Scotland, mate, you wake up the world.
Aye.
If you free Scotland, you'll free the world. And when you're talking about, you brought up the Commonwealth. You mentioned the Commonwealth earlier, right? So you think about it. Scotland is independent. We are, fact, right? That exposes the Commonwealth to be a fraud. How big's that?
Aye.
How big's that?
Something else I saw the other day. The whole what's the word? Oh god damn! Everybody's using the word now. Oppressed, being the whole oppression of Scotland, and it was like Americans talking about it, which is really cool. And they were talking about other stuff, and they just brought it in a wee bit, and they were saying something about like it's like the oppression of Scotland, eh? And the American guys like, yeah, and the other guys, you realise that those guys created like a lot of the world we live in. You know, and these Americans like know this stuff, and it was just cool watching them showing recognition and bringing up the oppression of Scotland, holding them down and behind England and in the UK, and they're having all sorts of issues over there. And it was like, it's crazy. These guys invented a lot of the stuff that makes us the world that we live. Yeah. And I was like, that is so cool that it is actually recognised by people with the knowledge of it.
You mentioned that, right, as being the inventor of the modern world, right? See Holyrood Park, the volcanic hub. I got told by someone that Holyrood Park's the centre of creation. That's where it all started. What made me start talking about that? What were you talking about?
I don't know, but you've just made me think I love the
inventions of the world. Aye. If you think if Scotland was the centre of creation,
civilization,
radio,
aye. So you can, it kind of resembles why everything's coming for here. Know what I mean? Yeah. Creation wise. Yeah. But then that takes you back to the ley lines as well.
Absolutely.
Whereas the ley lines are like, and again, there's something happening on Colton Hill. I'm tuning into something. I mean, you're saying like there's information coming for these ley lines. I need to tune into more. I need to know more about it. I need to research it more.
You're definitely in on. I mean, 15 years ago, man, you were chatting to me about things like this, when I had no idea.
I always knew about
chilling
it.
With you.
I always knew about the.
I think I just sat like that.
I just never knew information.
You hadn't your
drove home
There's loads of information on them.
There was other cool things I was going through my head there. I always liked the idea Edinburgh being known as the Athens of the North.
Have you heard of the Jerusalem? Edinburgh being the true Jerusalem.
All right.
That's fascinating.
Aye.
Really fascinating.
And then is there other routes to Eden also being related to something to do with the Garden of Eden?
That's where.
Well, the original name of Edinburgh was Eden.
Edinburgh.
Yeah.
On all the original.
And there's reasons why these are like the Athens of the North and Eden. And
well, the Hebrew Bible.
There's some sort of real roots
that's,
here.
That's the. I'm no biblical or anything like that. Never read the Bible. This is information coming from other people. But the Hebrew Bible. I've lost my train of thought again. Edinburgh, aye. The Hebrew Bible is the.
That was good there.
What was written in the Hebrew Bible, the biblical lands was written about in the Hebrew Bible is meant to be Great Britain. It's not meant to be the Middle East. They're meant to have flipped it.
Right.
So like this is meant to be the true biblical lands. And Edinburgh, Jerusalem in the Bible.
Which makes a sense why the centre of the royal family would choose this land.
Aye, it's mental, mate.
Like
the Jerusalem in the Bible has 7 hills. Edinburgh's got 7 hills. Jerusalem in the Middle East's flat, right? Now there's a port called Joppa in the Bible in Jerusalem, right? The Joppa's
just outside Jerusalem.
Just outside Edinburgh.
Aye, Joppa,
right?
Aye.
There's a port in the Jerusalem in the Middle East. There's a port called Jaffa, but no Joppa. Right, and there's all these links to Mary Magdalene as well, throughout Scotland, throughout the churches. She's meant to have been buried in Iona.
A village right next to Arthur's Seat that's now a council housing scheme called Magdalene.
That's where I grew up, mate.
Yeah.
Magdalene.
Yeah. There's so much in Edinburgh too, because there's not stuff to do with the Holy Grail in Scotland.
Just a wee bit, aye.
Aye. I'm totally like not clued up. I just know there's all these wee things.
The Jerusalem stuff's fascinating though.
Stories about Pontius Pilate, who was the Roman officer who supposedly led the assassination of Jesus. He was apparently born up in the Highlands, like.
Right.
Up there
Yeah.
It's the same with Leith. The coat of arms of Leith has Mary Magdalene on a boat, and she's meant to have left.
With a baby.
I know that.
She's meant to have left Leith.
I know the coat of arms, and they've started putting the signs up everywhere.
And there's all these churches throughout Scotland that have stained glass windows designated to Mary Magdalene. There's a book called The Great Deception by Beaumont.
Beaumont.
Have you read that book?
Yeah.
I've heard of the book, I've not read it.
Yeah.
But I've watched videos on it.
It was banned in every major library in the world.
It's now being republished, now being republished.
There's a lot of
the fact
things.
that it was banned and taken off the shelves says a lot.
Yeah, the one positive thing, well, with the whole internet and the modern world, there's a lot of like crazy stuff going on, like people all wanting rights for all sorts of stuff, like crazy stuff that wasn't an issue 20 years ago. But there is some positive stuff with all that, like that knowledge you're talking about, and things like that are coming out too, and people are starting to have to accept things, and it's all because of technology and the internet, and like simple, even like the fact they had to come clean about the Bilderberg, is that right? Bilderberg meetings,
right?
And they kept it quiet for ages. It was secret meetings they were having, and then they got busted online 10-15 years ago. So then it was on, and I was like watching the TV with my mum or something, and I was like, the tag on the news now, Bilderberg Group presidents arriving and stuff, and I was like, is this on TV, Mum? And she was like, oh yeah, it's this meeting they have, and she didn't know much about it, and I was like, oh, we've been having these meetings for years, but they were hiding about it.
See,
because they've been busted, so now it's on TV, and they're going like, this is a great meeting where we plan to make the world great for you. That's all we're doing.
Is she talking about the kind of meetings? Do you know the church on the Mound? Church of Scotland on the Mound in Edinburgh.
Church on the Mound, there's the galleries.
Oh yeah,
it looks like Westminster.
It looks like a
mini
cathedral.
The one at the top of it.
Is it a cathedral?
Yeah.
Oh.
So that's the highest authority, institutionalised authority in this land. It's above Westminster. It's the only church that's independent for the Vatican.
Oh.
Right? What does that tell you?
Yeah.
Right? But every year in July, for 2 weeks in July, they have meetings in that church, New World Order meetings, and every head of state for every country globally meet at that church for 2 weeks and have discussions and meetings. Prince Philip and all that, the Charles, all these guys, they have to be there by law. Like, so what's going on at these meetings, and why have they picked Scotland? Why have they picked Edinburgh? Why have they picked that church?
Mm-hmm.
Know what I mean?
Aye.
But it's not common knowledge. But if you Google it, you can find out
because
what 2 weeks are there,
Scotland's
and
a really
what it's about.
Much more important place than we're led to believe.
Yeah.
Basically.
Why is the whole world meeting
answer,
in that church? It's a New World Order meeting they're having in that church.
The answer to a lot of these things
funny
is
enough,
because Scotland's a lot more important than they let us know.
I think they just made Prince William and just became High Commissioner of that church or something.
Aye.
Which is kind of, it's like they're making them the part of the jurisdiction. You know what I mean? But what is going on in these meetings?
Yeah.
What are they discussing in that church?
Because they're not heads of corporations and stuff at these meetings then. Because like Bilderberg's heads of oil and heads of media. I don't know
exactly who else.
There
probably will be.
It seems to be what's happening is, instead of the governments and the monarchy, which was, like I was saying, originally these were set up to safeguard the people and infiltrate set up the laws and everything else. As we're starting to see, especially in the last few years, like you were saying as well about the NHS, that's just a tiny piece of it all, is that they're privatising it all. And now instead of government bodies that are doing it, we're listening to all these other people. Like with the pandemic, it was suddenly all about the World Health Organization, all this kind of stuff. We're suddenly giving our power away to some experts. They're all private organisations. None of these people are public bodies.
I hear a lot about the World Economic Forum and that.
Very, very wealthy people with massive agendas. Like.
Right.
Oh yeah,
and that's all part of removing the sovereignty again.
Most of them are rooted from the UN and the One World Order and the whole
It's
plan.
all about taking over small niches of government, taking over the councils, taking over the governments globally. Like all these councils and governments globally are pushing their agenda.
The whole COVID thing. We'll not get too far into COVID, but there was so many things during COVID that was just like, man, this is so poorly planned out. Like, it's absolutely...
It's a whole series of podcasts on that one.
For somebody like myself that keeps an open mind, like, all the stuff you're talking about, I like understand about and I've heard about, but I don't know the roots of them. These are for someone with an open mind, when COVID hit, so many weaknesses and holes and things... I was just like, this is almost laughable. Yeah. Like, I still, even on that, I'm not an expert, but I just know that I was watching things, and for instance, little things like, we need to stay 2 meters away. Right, cool. Really, you need to be 1 meter away, because it can't go further than 1 meter. So by keeping 2 meters, you're not going to catch it. Ah, perfect, I can see that. Aye, so, and why is that? Because it's droplets. That's what it's. Oh, cool. So it comes out, and it goes about 1 meter and it drops and it lands on surfaces and handles and all that, remember? Right, aye, cool, aye. So we'll stay 2 meters and that means the droplets will never hit you. Makes sense, perfect, aye. And give it a few more months and there's adverts on the TV of people in houses with black clouds floating around rooms. And I'm going, I thought they were droplets. If it's a black cloud, it's airborne. That means airborne. Like, is it airborne or is it droplets? What are you talking about? Yeah. Well, we're still doing the 2 meter spacing, so it's droplets then. Yeah, but there's clouds in your room too, so it's airborne.
See what I reckon it was? I was like, right?
It's all been backtracked. Like.
See, COVID, right? It was one big IQ test.
Yeah. Aye. It was a big.
You either fell for it or you never.
It felt a big test. Aye, I know what you mean. IQ test too. Aye, to test. Aye, that's quite a. Fierce way of saying it and a blunt way of saying it, that basically, like, if you were a bit daft, you just followed the plan.
Right.
And if you had a head on your shoulders, you questioned things a bit more, and then things started to go like.
Hopefully, everybody's questioning things now, though, eh?
I think more people are, eh?
Definitely.
The more people you speak to. I mean, I speak to random people like in the street, or even like if I'm out working or that, and it's amazing how many folk are sceptical of the whole Ukraine and Russia thing. Like, people aren't just going, oh, aye, that Putin, he's a bad one. Like, the more people are like, aye, I know, but did you hear about this that Ukraine was doing and all? It's like average people are knowing these things that... Like,
still not enough, though, eh?
No, not enough folk, aye. It's just these little people you bump into and you're like... I didn't ken. I've always known Chris has been... I mean, back in the day, we used to sit and chat conspiracy stuff and everything, so I always knew you were quite clued up, but I wasn't sure how you were on things like that, But so it's, again, cool, that we're all on the same page. And it's like when you bump into someone in life that you maybe just, a guy called Joe, or Joe's no mate, Joe's that's a bit American, we'll call him Bob. And you meet Bob and, alright Bob, aye, how you doing, mate? Aye, not too bad. And like, watched a documentary the other night, man. It was all about this. Oh, you into that? Aye, you into that? It's like you have this wee realisation.
Right.
Oh, you've been what? Aye. And it's like you get a wee connection. And suddenly you can tell that he feels like, oh, nice. Because there's nobody else here, mate, that believes this stuff, eh? And you can tell he's like, finally, somebody else. So you heard about this, you heard about that. And it's not tinfoil hat wearing stuff, folk. No, it's just like people that look into things. So everybody else in that workplace or that aren't looking into things. And Bob's finally happy because he's met somebody else that's looked into things.
And so looking into things.
It comes back to, this idea of energy and the magnetism. Like we still say, like, you're on the same wavelength. It's all about that, man. Because we're all thinking on different frequencies, different wavelengths.
Yeah.
If you're in tune with somebody, you're on the same page.
It's
all about that.
There's actually lots of vocabulary and speech that ties into literally a lot of stuff. The things we say.
The Waverley train station, the Waverley line. It's on the line, isn't it? It's on the dragon line, isn't it?
Could be.
Right, well, it goes right through. It's the same line that goes through the volcanic plug of Holyrood and the hill.
Yeah.
And they've called it the Waverley line.
Aye. That's
weird,
mad.
And it used to be a big loch, like not quite the sea, but waves, water.
So you were mentioning documentaries and stuff, right? Is there anything for myself and the listeners that you could point us towards to look into about I mentioned David Cowan, which is a great aspect of research. Is there anybody else?
There's a book that you mentioned. You were talking about what was it? The Alba line.
The Spiny Albion. Is it Gary Bickliffe?
Barry Bickliffe. That's
right.
a great book. He goes into it in great detail. I've actually met Barry. He's a great guy.
He's actually just sold that book sold out. He's just
he's just republished
it.
Yeah. That's definitely worth reading. Not off the top of my head, but there's a couple of things I can pass on to Ridlam. You can chuck it in the comments on this.
Is there many places like any sort of things online that anyone could check out? You're not too sure? Like anything for the viewers like to look up?
Well, that's what I'm just saying. I'll think of it after this.
Nothing.
And I'll give you the links
cool.
and you can stick it in the comments.
Yeah, man. Aye. But also, to be fair, like people can point you in directions, but if you just jump on Google and do a bit of investigating, you'll start finding stuff,
Absolutely.
But always keep in mind, your Google's not necessarily telling you what you need.
I've noticed with Google, right? So I follow a lot of the Stonehenge people, right? And what I've noticed, right, is Google's giving you different solstice dates and different equinox dates to the actual.
No, that's correct, man. There's a huge misconception with that stuff that they're always on the same dates. But they're not.
No, but see the people at Stonehenge, right? Like the equinox that just passed, right? Google was saying it was 2 days later than the people that were at Stonehenge that were celebrating it.
Right.
Now, I would go with the Druids and the people that turn up to Stonehenge every 4 times a year, how many times a year they do it. I would believe them over Google. But and even the guy that I follow on Facebook, his name's Merlin. He's saying that Google are getting it wrong as well. The astrology people are getting the dates wrong as well. I don't know why though.
It's quite a complex scenario, but it's good you bring it up because it's an important rabbit hole that we can go into now as well. Is time, because it's a huge part of the idea of sovereignty in the land. And our ability to, our connection to, our true connection to everything, and our actual,
trying to disengage us
our actual freedom. Yeah, absolutely. Because I'll get to the solstice point in a minute, but to give you a background on that, it goes back to Julius Caesar. 2,000 years ago, right? He basically reinvented time because he understood that time is a natural law.
They fucked the
and
time
if
up.
We're following natural law, we're hooked up to the universe and we're in our full power.
And very
so he went.
They've adjusted time a few times.
That's what I'm getting to. Mm-hmm. So what the Romans were about, the Roman Empire, they were basically the founding of the military-industrial complex. Their entire society was based on warfare, conquering, creating their empire, and it was all based on time became tax. And it's still in all the adverts for the HM revenue today. Time doesn't have to be taxing. It's all from there. So the name calendar comes from the Roman word calendrus, which was the name of the festival that they had on the 1st of January, which was the beginning of the Roman year. And that was the day that all the people paid their tax to the empire.
Cool.
So time became a mechanism of enslavement.
Yeah.
Now, have you ever wondered why certain months, I'll give you a couple of examples, October, November, December. Now they're all Latin words. What do they mean?
What do they mean?
Yeah, October. Oct is 8.
All right.
Right, it's number 8.
Right.
All right.
But it's the
10th month.
Oh yeah.
Right.
November means 9.
Right.
It's the 11th month. December means 10.
Does an octagon have eight
decimal,
sides?
but it's the 12th month. It's all been purposely
Does an
offset.
octagon have 8 sides?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just oct.
Yeah, 8.
Yeah.
So it's all been purposely offset to disconnect us.
Yeah.
I've noticed that because like I've been celebrating the solstices and equinoxes about 15 years, like celebrating them on the time, right? And what I've noticed is the week running up to the solstice, or the 10 to 7 days running up to a solstice or an equinox, I'll notice things in my life. I'll notice a pattern changing. I'll notice doors opening. I'll notice doors closing within my life, within people in my life, or situations. It happens the week running up to each solstice and the week running up to every equinox. I don't know if it's because I'm tuned into the celebration and these changes are happening because of what I'm tuned into, or I don't know if these changes happen anyway, but
I'm wondering if they are happening, and to everyone, and because you're actually tuned in and understanding things, you're noticing them.
I'm noticing it.
And you've got me sitting here going, when was that? I want to start paying attention if this is happening to me too. Because then when you start paying attention, you maybe start noticing
I'm talking
it.
big changes. I'm talking big changes. I'm noticing it every time. Like the week running up to these events, I can see that my life's got to change within. I often think a foreseeable future.
No basis to it, but I often think I seem to have periods of good, like wee periods of good things all happening, and I'm like, and I notice that, and I go, I wonder, is there a reason for that? Why is everything going good? Why have I just had that good, and then that good, and then that's went good, and it's like, wow. And then I go and I can have periods of bad times, and I go, is there something going on? And I've always thought that.
It's a cycle,
is there something going on? Because suddenly someone dies. Somebody important's just bloody lost their job, and it's caused a problem for their mortgage, and someone close to, and it's just like bad news, and then suddenly you're like, good news, all happy, and it's like, is there something going on with that?
Well, I think it comes with the whole, like I mentioned a minute ago, the idea of wavelengths. It is all energetic. We're all just atoms floating about because of gravity and everything else. It makes us, but it's all energy and frequencies in the end of the day. And it's, when you're in tune, in the right vibe, things go well.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to ask.
It knocks you off, and things don't go well.
I then start to wonder: am I responsible? So am I being punished somehow? These bad things are happening because somehow I'm not doing something right, and it's not my fault. It's because it's been blocked for me. I don't know the knowledge, so I'm like, because they blocked your knowledge, you're having a hard time. If you knew what you were doing, you wouldn't be having this hard time, but they don't want you to know, so you're having a hard time. So then it's like, it is my own fault in a way, and if I knew, this wouldn't be happening because I'd have done the right things.
Everything's your fault, mate.
Aye.
Everything.
Aye.
Yes, we need to accept responsibility for everything, mate. That's where people are missing out.
And is this all relating? So I start going through these things. Why do you have good times and bad times? And then I'm going, so is it my own fault? Is it connected to karma?
It's frequency,
is it me
mate.
doing
Frequency.
shit? And this is karma coming back, teach you a wee lesson that here, your gluttony and your bathing in your greatness, this is a wee punishment for you, because like when we gave you those nice things, you didn't accept them humbly, and now I'm going to give you some
Gratitude
bad stuff to give you.
I
feel like, is that real?
Yeah.
When I had all those good things and I was going, Ray, fuck it, I'm not bothered. I've just got this and that, and everything's great. Oh no, don't.
It's about frequency, mate. It's like a radio station. It's like if you didn't like listening to AC/DC and listen to some Bob Marley, so you just change your frequency.
I think lots of things in life too, just back on that again, and this is one I believe in. A lot of folk will know like this one, but I think like they're all related, and they're simple little things that people don't think about. But one thing I never do is like I just got a new car, pretty cool car. I didn't post on Facebook like, check my new car, because in my head I've always had this thing where I'm like, some people can't afford a new car. Like, it's a shame on Facebook to be going, check it out, and there's some poor dudes that's like, man, I wish I could fucking
what
get a new
gets
car.
me is the Christmas
I just don't think it's right, and I feel like you might get punished for that. Is that like the old religious things of making an image of yourself, idolising yourself?
So again, it goes back to sovereignty. You could be affecting somebody's sovereignty by that post.
Yeah.
Which that effect to that person's sovereignty, wherever that goes, that knows it came for you. Know what I mean?
and
You're going to get you're going to get the effect of that.
You're actually putting yourself on a pedestal above people. It's almost like, hey guys, look at my new car. Check this, or check me.
The Christmas ones are the worst when folk like post like their living room full of presents and
I forgot about that's one of the worst ones.
Some people can't buy a couple of things for their kids.
I think that's where I noticed it. With the rise of Facebook and that, people posting things with their kids' pictures and their kids' presents and that, and thinking, man, somebody's like, they can hardly sit down on the couches.
Aye.
And then there's other people like in a high-rise flat with no much money, and they're having to watch that.
Eating a pot
and
noodle.
All it's doing is not even exaggerating, but focusing on the fact that this is how unfair life is. Yeah. They've got all that, and they've got nothing. Yeah. And I feel like it is a fact that's there, but do you really need to post it up? Yeah. And that happiness should just be for you and your kids anyway. Yeah. Why is it for the whole world to see?
I think you're tapping into something there that's spot on with the sovereignty piece, in that sovereignty, like you were touching on as well, is really about being mindful. Being aware that you are that responsible being. You are fully responsible for every single thought you have, let alone what you say or your interactions with other people, has a consequence. It's the law of attraction again, and you need to be responsible for the outcome of that. Yeah. So if you're not mindful, if you're just constantly thinking about yourself and the things that you can get, then stuff's going to go wrong, because you're not in alignment with natural law. And you're against it.
And the way they've blocked sort of everything, 98% of the population are all about what they can get. Yep. And it's actually quite sad when you really think about that. And then I saw a wee post the other day from it was a meme, but it was a nice meme. It was an old Indian man in America, and a wee quote, and he was saying, before the white man civilized us, we didn't have any prisons, so therefore we didn't have any criminals. We didn't have any money, so therefore we didn't have any thieves. And if someone didn't have something, we gave them some of ours. And it made me go, that's mad. And something you've just said there brought me to that instead of being on Facebook going, check what I've got, why don't you take that car and go and give it to someone else that needs it more? Well, I'm going to give my car to somebody that needs it more. But in the Indian days, they'd have took that valuable blanket and just gave it to someone that needed it. Yeah.
Or they would have shared it with everybody on their street.
Yeah. Aye. So the whole mindset's knackered. Yeah, it's like, totally. What is going on? But I'm not going to go and give someone my car. Yeah. But it's almost like, because then they lock you in it. Yeah. So it's like, well, to get the car, you've got to pay a lot of money. And
touched on something there that basically a comfy, I don't know what to call it, a movement, whatever, the Scottish Sovereigns thing was a thing like over 10 years ago. It was a community, became a community of sovereigns, a community of people who all had each other's back, right? All recognised each other for who we were, right?
Similar to the Indians, like the sovereign Scottish people were.
Similar, aye. But we also had this, it was like an energy exchange, right? So you could get stuff done for free, right? If your car broke down, there was a mechanic there to fix your car, you know what I mean? And you done them a favour in return, right? And there was no money exchanged, and there was a community of people all over Scotland doing this, right? It's now
pay it forward.
What was that?
Pay it forward.
Pay it forward.
I think that was that not the name of the movement?
No. This was the Scottish Sovereigns, and basically we had that energy exchange, right?
And I imagine something like that really took off.
But that is the future.
Economies would fall, and
I'd done one way. So I'd witnessed this, and I'd done favours for people, and I'd had favours done for me, right? But there was this one individual where we'd done a mutual exchange of energies at the same time, right? And it's a friend called Anne Henderson. Hope you're doing well, Anne. She had she opened up a wee nail bar in her bedroom doing nails, like, so her husband set out this wee studio, right? So I've got daughters like wanting their nails done, so I thought, right, I'll go and take them to Anne's to get their nails done. And Anne knew about the sovereigns, she knew about the community, and she was just coming into it. And I I asked her to like do my daughter's nails. What's the price and all that kind of stuff? And she was like, "Can you paint?" I was like, "I can paint, aye." And she's like, "Well, if you paint my daughter's bedroom, I'll paint your daughter's nails." Right? And I'm like, fair enough. So I took my 2 daughters up. They spent the day with Anne in our wee studio. I painted the daughter's bedroom. And that was it. Brilliant. Excellent. Right? But something happened. Something happened. Right? Doesn't happen with money. There was a bond created.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a close bond.
It's like a caring feeling.
Aye,
I'm here for you if you need me.
Exactly.
Aye.
And that bond only happened through that energy exchange. I wouldn't have had the same bond handing her a bit of money.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't have been the same. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that was my first sort of engagement with a favour for a favour. I'd done people favours and I'd had favours, but I'd never had that mutual energy exchange at the same time, and it created something. I still can't put my finger on
That's
it.
what I was trying. It's like a
But
caring.
it's like created a bond, an energy that money doesn't do that.
You understand.
You know what I mean?
You understand that she's there to do what she can do for you, and she's happy to just do it. And she understands that you're there, and you'll do what she needs you to do for her. You'll just do it. And it's like it's hard to explain, eh? But
I
it's
can't
like,
explain it,
aye.
but I felt it, and I can't explain it to you.
I can feel that same similar feeling when I'm doing my signage work, and I've got folk I work with and pals that we do jobs together. And if there's a very small job that's going to just take me to pop up for 20 minutes just to give them a hand with something, I'll just not charge them. And you feel that feeling. And I can sense what you're saying. And my mate's like, what you wanting for? No, it doesn't matter,
energy,
man.
mate.
It took me 20
Can't
minutes.
stop energy, like.
It was good to see you. Again, I'll be like, no, but I've not seen you in ages. It was good to see you. It took me 20 minutes, man. Forget about it.
It doesn't lie either.
And you
energy
can feel it for
doesn't
him.
lie.
And
You know what I mean?
yeah, and there's a bond there, and you leave with him feeling like, I'm glad to have you in my life.
I think that is, absolutely, man.
Yeah.
And I think that is part of natural law. We are, as human beings, good people, and we want to look after each other.
Yeah.
And everything else in society is trying to fragment us and pigeonhole us and keep us separate.
Yeah.
Causing oppositions and arguments, so we're in some sort of conflict.
I was just about to say, people that say, "What? You went up and done it for none? Mate, you should have charged them."
Yeah.
See when folk do that to me.
Yeah.
I feel it makes me feel a bit sick about that attitude coming from you. Like, I've kent them for years still though. Yeah. It was your time.
Right.
Like,
people didn't get it.
I feel like,
they're stuck in the
mate, what a
matrix.
bad attitude. Like, oof, I wouldn't want to be your mate.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Right.
And it's like, why? I hate, and people do that a lot, eh? Like, or even if I've done a job nice and cheap for somebody, they're like, mate, that was a waste of your time, eh? And I'm like, well, it wasn't, because the woman had her own shop, eh? And her husband had died. I got to know her a wee bit. Her husband had just died. She's got 3 kids, trying to run her own business. She's struggling a wee bit. She told me she didn't have a lot of money, so I did it cheap for her. Like, oh mate, just ripped yourself off. No, I didn't. I helped this woman.
Alright.
Yeah.
The energy goes a lot further.
Yeah. I've done that numerous times. Had people
And it
that
goes
were,
back to
oh,
sovereignty
sorry,
and natural law. You're affecting somebody's sovereignty in a positive way,
Aye.
which wherever that positive vibration goes reflects back down on you, mate.
Aye.
And it's the same for bad things.
I've had
if I call you something terrible and it hurts you, your feelings go somewhere.
Yeah.
And wherever that goes comes back to me, yeah.
And also, on another point, people might say, what if they're lying to you? Like, alright, okay, so they've maybe got one over on me, but still, karma, spiritually, I still did the right thing. And they're the one that's going to get it, because they were the one that lied. Yeah. I still did the thing for cheap or free and held my part. The universe is happy. Yeah. They're in trouble though, because they actually lied and her husband never died, and just to get me to do it cheap. But that's fine. What does that matter to me? I don't even know them. I'm away now. Whether her husband's alive, dead,
you've done
whatever.
your energy bit. That's what matters, eh?
Mm-hmm. Aye. So still, people like, it's probably lying to you, mate. Probably just to get your price down in that. Well, they'll get punished for that. Again, I done my bit, and aye. But I've had quite a lot of people. A handful of jobs. I've been self-employed a few years, where I've done the price and everything. Jobs prepared nearly to go, and then like the person says like, "Oh, I'm really sorry for wasting your time, mate. it's just it was a bit more than I thought, and I can't really afford it now looking at it. All right, say it was £690. I'm like, what's your sort of budget like? I've maybe 500, 550, 500 I had for it, and then I'd look at it and go, I can still do it for 550. All right, and I just feel like the poor guy or woman's not having what they need now, and like I'm still going to make money.
As long as you're not lost, aye.
Yeah, I'm still going to make a bit of money, not tons of money, but I'm still going to work and make some money. So I just go, I'm still going to take the job, and I don't resent them for it either, because they're being honest, and they were ready to say, look, I'm not going to waste your time, I'll just leave it. No, I'll still do it, just give me the 550. And then they're like, oh, thanks so much. And I actually done one for somebody that was similar like that. And then when I finished the job, it all looked so great. The woman was like, I've transferred your money over, and actually I've gave you what you wanted in the first place.
Right.
And then
So
I'm
that
like,
happy, aye.
aye, and then I'm like, oh, thanks very much. And then I'm coming back to my missus going, you know how I dropped the price for her? She's ended up paying me the full amount because she realised how much work there was and how happy she was, and everything. Like, oh, so it's almost like karma coming back, maybe. Aye.
It does come back, aye.
Yeah,
It does. Have you looked much into natural law yourself?
Yeah, loads, man.
Loads. You looked into Mark Passio?
No.
Mark Passio. He's done a 9-hour seminar on natural law.
Right.
It's fascinating. You have to watch it more than once because there's so much information within it.
Yeah.
I'm breaking it down, the 9 hours. So I've got loads of wee 5-minute bits broken down, 10-minute bits broken down.
Yeah.
And I've done 2 wee presentations opening you up to Mark Passio. I'm not really teaching anybody anything, I'm just pointing people in the direction. But Mark Passio's lecture on natural law, there's nobody else putting out as much information on natural law than Mark Passio.
Awesome.
You need to look into natural. It's a key, mate. You'll grow for it.
Like the law of attraction.
Natural law is the law of attraction.
Well, it's part of it. Yeah.
Aye. No, you've got to stand within natural law. If you want the law of attraction to work, you've got to align yourself with natural law, or it's not working.
The original, before, I suppose you could say, like, religion was changed and stuff. A lot of religion was about the commandments, and everything is about conducting yourself in a way that's right.
Morality.
Isn't it? Yeah. Aye. And then
absolutely.
if everybody actually did that, didn't steal from each other,
Right.
didn't sleep with their neighbour's wife, if everybody actually did that, man, the world would be.
It'd be harmonious.
Aye.
It's like
It doesn't mean you need to believe in Jesus and God and go to church and that. It's just like
100%.
that set of rules.
Just behave yourself.
It's like the 7 sins and the 7 virtues. You know, it's it's now a religious thing, but actually what that's telling you about is like be a good person, or be a bad person.
It's just a guide to life,
and again,
really,
it's
isn't
kind
it?
of karma, good karma, bad karma, law of attraction.
Years ago, when I wasn't sure about religion and anything like that, I've never been religious, but I used to, even when my pals and that would maybe laugh at religion, kind of like, oh, we can Pope and that, kind of, and I'd always go like, nah, oh, are you religious? Like, oh, nah, I'm not religious, man. But I mean, if somebody goes to church and lives their life as a Christian as best they can, they're probably quite a good person. You know, I used to be like, they're probably like, if caring and generous and wouldn't steal, trustworthy, you know, somebody that tries to
most
stick
of them
to
are
the
good
rules.
people. They just didn't realise what they're involved in.
Yeah, unfortunately, the mask over the whole thing is confusing, but the general purpose of it, the Christians and that are nice folk. But I think I'm not up on it enough, but pretty much so are the Muslims,
Absolutely.
There's extremist Muslims. I don't know enough about all this stuff.
It's
But
extremists everywhere, mate.
aye. And
In
but
every way of life.
yeah.
Right. See if I was to book a tour at Roslin, what would that involve? What
You got a wee plug for your tours.
My usual tour is so I do basically like a circular walk through the woodland of the area around Roslin Chapel for the first half of the tour, and then the second half of the tour is all around the outside and all around the inside of the chapel itself.
Right.
So you get to see the older part of the landscape and learn the older history, and then you get to the chapel and explore all of that. I go into the carvings and the story of the family and all the stuff they were into. And
Yeah, I've seen some of his is like clients that have been on tour. I've read some of your posts where people are talking to you, and everybody seems to like totally value your guides. Like people are over the moon about how great it was.
I've been blown
Americans
away.
And everything, and they're all like, "We can't wait to see you in 5 years to come back for another one." And we're bringing my sister this time, and
Is it just Roslin you do tours?
No, I do tours all over Scotland.
Well, what I was
mainly because I don't have a minibus, but when I get bigger groups, I hire a minibus. So I mainly do Roslin and Edinburgh, and then I have groups that will book me for bigger tours around Scotland.
What parts of Edinburgh do you do?
I'll get a bus. My main Edinburgh tour starts at the castle, and not in the castle, at the castle gates, and then down the Royal Mile, St Giles, Greyfriars, and then down the rest of the mile finishes at Arthur's Seat.
Right.
I noticed as well a lot of your comments back, which I was surprised at, that you're not just sticking to general history, because I saw people's comments, and I remember one of them was literally like, oh wow, Chris is so great, blah blah blah, the knowledge and information on the ley lines was awesome. You know, and I'm like, so you're actually teaching about ley lines and stuff to them.
I do the dowsing on the tours.
Yeah. So you're not just going, this building was built in 1600, and like.
Well, that was kind of the inspiration for me to set up doing what I'm doing, is because I was reading about this and gathering all this information, and then I was looking around, going, who are the other people into this stuff? And there was nobody, you know. And then I was like, I got to do something with it, you know. There was a saying that kept sort of ringing in my head, that knowledge not shared is dead. And that just totally rang like a bell in me. I was like, right, I've got to share this stuff that I've been running. And that's when I set up doing the tours.
I'm interested to know, because you've been doing it a while now, have you been on a tour and had a person try and argue a point with you?
Oh yeah, many times.
Aye.
Many hecklers.
Aye. Where you're saying, so actually these were proven that the ley lines are running through here. Have you had the odd person, well, that's not really accurate from what I read. Have you had people
Yeah, but generally I can, because I've done so much, because it's not only an interest, it's a passion of mine, you know.
You can shut them down pretty quick.
Stuff. I'm reading books all the time. So I know my stuff inside out.
So you shut them down pretty quick if you know you're.
Well, I wouldn't say
this.
Shutting them down, but
because you want paid.
I'd give them my perspective, and you know, at the end of the day, with all this stuff, like what we're doing today with sharing this, you know, it's about sharing information so people can see the bigger picture. One of the biggest things I was put off by Roslin specifically was before I started all the tours, I read all the literature, and pretty much every single book that's written about the place is blah 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 blah. Some sort of theory, because there's very little written records, so it's the easiest place to make up fantastical theories and conspiracies about. But then it always ends with, and this is the conclusion, this is what the facts is, I've discovered it, aren't I amazing? And to me it was just like, it's like the total opposite of what should be going on in a sacred space, sacred place, with all this wonderful history and stories that they've just kind of waffled on about and then claimed. Whereas they don't really know, because there actually isn't records. So that was the inspiration. I was like, this is not what people are wanting. So what I do is give an
knowledge
overview. I give history, but give equal voice to the history, the myths, the legends, and the folklore, and some conspiracy stuff. And then let people take away what they want, because it's about the people's experience. I'm not here to tell you Jesus died on this day and he did this and that and he was real. I'm not here to tell you that he wasn't real. That's for you to make up, and it's not for me. It's not my job, but I'll share stories that will give you hopefully a bigger picture of things. Because it's becoming a rarer and rarer thing these days, you know, and knowledge is lost. You know, and that's a big thing. Of another reason why I started doing what I do is I came upon this idea of knowledge bearers, or people that have been passed down knowledge that hasn't been written down over centuries. And this has been going on forever. And it's only really recently that it's started to fall apart. But it's been going on forever, you know. So it's like passing on that knowledge, because otherwise it's dead, as the saying goes, you know.
God, I had 3 instances while you're talking there. I shut up and never forgot all 3 of them.
3's the magic number.
I know. I guess I don't want to stop you talking. And I'm like, I was just thinking. I think in future, when I've got these highly intellectual chats, I'm gonna have to start having a pad of paper or just write down
bullet points.
You know, we bullet point, because normally, to be fair, no offense to all the other podcast guests, we're just kind of on one wee subject and we're chatting about music or something. I should have had a notepad for this one, like.
next time.
The conversations are always dangerous like that, because you always, well, like today, you know, we're here to talk about this, but we've got in hundreds of other rabbit holes. And,
yeah, I think it was just your point about this is giving information to people to look into themselves, and learn about.
Yeah.
What?
Well, it's the promotion of sovereignty, you know. It's like if you just take other people's information for, you know, the absolute, then you're giving your power away. You know, that sovereignty is like, claim your sovereignty, go and look yourself, make your own choices, your own decisions with the information that you find. Otherwise, you're just a subject, believing some narrative that can be punted by anybody. As another thing I often say to folk on the tours is like, there isn't an absolute truth. You know, we're kind of blinkered, or we have this perception or idea of this kind of imaginary idea of like an absolute truth, like fact, like this is fact, this is fiction. The only absolute truth is that we all are individuals, and we all see everything differently.
I saw something recently.
So
I like,
it puts that absolute out the window.
I like
completely.
I like a bit of science and stuff, but been watching lots of stuff, and like 90%, I can't remember, a high percentage of science is guesswork. And science constantly evolves. So something they're claiming right now, in 50 years they may be claiming something completely different. And then the general population go, it's science though. You know, it's proven, mate. It's science. But then you're like, no, but do you realise that science constantly changes, because they just sort of guess that's where we are just now. Oh wait, we've just found something else out that changes that now. You know, so it's like, so people that go, mate, science proves it. No, science has a theory on it.
The answer,
Aye, it's got a theory on it. Aye.
Again, it's sold as an absolute, but in reality, no, it's just it's the same with the education system.
Well,
it's like you go and learn something, but all you're actually learning is other people's dissertations that have studied it and their perception of that subject. It's not an absolute. It's just that person's view and what they've found out.
Aye. Well, you and Gareth Cook. He's not Cook anymore, though, is he?
Montague.
Aye, Gareth. Some folk would know Gareth still. CRMC Clothing from back in the day. It was you and Gareth that introduced me to Graham Hancock and Fingerprints of the Gods and all that stuff, and loved it, man. So I've always liked a lot of his stuff. I actually quite liked a lot of stuff that David Wilcock's done as well. And so I got you and Gareth got me into all that stuff. Madhat was actually, give Madhat his due, he was chatting about these things, and he always says to me like, until I got pally with you guys and I was going down to Gareth's and that, you were staying there too. Madhat was always, I've been trying to tell you this stuff for years, man. And I was like, well, Gareth and that had a really good way of telling me, and they've got it into my head, man. And so Graham Hancock, he just done that thing on it got released on Sky and everything, that programme, and people slated it. Did you see that?
Yeah, you get slated a lot.
Everybody's just like, whoa, this crazy guy with his crazy theories and all that, and they're all going, science has proven everything already and all this, and it's like, here we all go, they're all in
Michael Tellinger, you heard the Michael Tellinger?
For all this work for years.
He does amazing research. He's looking into Africa, all these gold mines that were in Africa. He's the only one that's looking into this stuff. There's nobody else researching what he's researching. It's basically like he's
David Tellinger.
Michael Tellinger.
Michael Tellinger.
Basically, he's it's like rediscovering the pyramids, but he's the only one looking into it. It's like, look into this guy. It's amazing. He's got a great mind as well. A great mind, like.
I watch back over the podcast, so I'll watch this and I'll go, ah, that guy, Michael Tellinger.
Michael Tellinger and Mark Passio, Natural Law, is a must for everybody. Nice. You will grow for that. Let me put it this way, right? You're doing your children a disservice if you didn't watch it. Your kids need to know this stuff. If they want to grow and to become mature, moral adults, they need to know about natural law. Absolutely. And Mark Passio's like 9-hour seminar, mate. It sounds a lot. Like, break it down into like half hour, 45 minutes each night or whatever, and you'll have it done within a week, just over a week, or watch it over two nights, just at your own pace. Everybody needs to watch it.
Africa, I'd love to go to Africa. I think I find it just so interesting. I'm maybe saying something wrong, but I think I'm right that I find it amazing that there's people out there that you say this to and they still go, eh? Like you say, everything came out of Africa. What? What do you mean? You know, you're like, is there really people on the planet alive that don't realise everything came out of Africa? Like it all began there. Like I'm right there, am I?
Yeah.
I know. It's just things I've watched, and I don't know why, but I'm pretty much convinced in my own self. Like it all began in Africa, you can, and there's still people going around that you say that to, and they're like, "What? We all came out of Africa. What are you talking about?" I was like, "Mate, like it's not even your fault. Sorry, they've just not put this knowledge out there, eh?" And,
Pretty much all of humanity can trace their DNA back to one woman in Africa.
yeah. And they know the tracks. I've watched stuff about it.
To one woman.
That little bit of top
Who is she?
Africa where they migrated out of and started to spread, because that was the only bit where there's a bit of land where they can walk, and and it's like, when I just say, like in a general conversation, something like, well, it's because like, it all started in Africa, eh? What are you talking about? I go, what are you fucking, are you nuts? Like, of course it all came out of Africa. And then I think a lot of stuff is theory for me, but ice caps were much bigger and everything. The ice came right. There was only habitat.
Well, loads of stuff's been moving around as well. Like.
True, yeah. Aye, so
like the Pentland Hills just over there. Ken, they used to be on the South Pole.
Oh, right, aye.
500,000 years ago, they were a massive 2 mile volcano, 2 mile high volcano range. So a big line of volcanoes like the hills is a big line of hills.
Aye.
On the South Pole.
Cool.
500,000 years ago.
David Attenborough just shared.
It just goes to show you how much things move around.
Like David Attenborough just shared on his Facebook thing the other day a map with this rocky region coming right from the top near Iceland and all that. Coming right, covers most of the UK, goes right down the side of America and side of Europe, and it's obviously opened. But at some point, that was all touching.
Yeah.
And
it was part of the Ring of Fire.
Mountain range, and it's like. That's mad. So the same mountains that are on the hills in Scotland is the exact same rock and mountain formations that are way up in Scotland, down in the coast of America.
Scotland was part of the Americas, and we broke off and floated over, and then England floated over, and we collided.
Oh,
you can go down to the border with England,
from Europe,
and if you go down to the coast, right on the border, you can actually see where the rock is fused together, the natural fault lines.
Yeah.
And that, you know, a lot of it fits into the sovereignty thing in our conversation about Europe. That was part of Avalonia, which was the original name for old Europe, and it broke off and collided with Scotland.
So we've been banging heads since the beginning of the time.
Yeah. And it's no wonder we're so different, and that we have these totally different legal structures, because it's coming from the land.
And you look at the land's completely different.
Yeah, totally. Fascinating stuff.
Yeah, man. Well, what are you thinking, guys? Do you want to call it quits, or is there anything else you want to have chat on? Anything else? I think.
I'm looking forward to seeing Chris's links and
I'll chuck a bunch of stuff your way to get into the comments.
Into the description.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
So there'll be some links in the description. You should be down under there. That's what everybody does on YouTube, don't they? Down there. If they're not there, it's my fault. So you can just comment and say,
Chris never sent it.
Or it's my fault because I never said it.
Right, well, that's been good, man. It's been quality. I've been so fun. I've been looking forward to it, and it has been quality.
Yeah.
I mean, I can check how long we've been going for. We're just about to creep onto 2 hours, eh?
Right. Yeah.
So that's good.
That's what we were saying earlier, wasn't it? It was probably be about 2 hours. Yeah.
Don't worry about your. Don't worry about your meeting, Chris. I'll give you a lift.
Nice one, man.
Well, the phone's off. Don't even know what time it is. But I'll drop you off. Give you a wee drop off somewhere. Eh?
Brilliant.
So yeah, but good stuff, guys. Thanks for coming on. Hope you all enjoyed it. There was some mad knowledge really. I'm going to need to watch back it and start researching some of this stuff as well. But we'll get another one on the go, because we actually probably could just go on to another subject now. And 2 more subjects, there'd be another hour.
I'll be here for days, mate.
So we'll come back with more subjects, eh? And
maybe just focus on the one subject.
Yeah. This has been like.
I reckon the
that'll be a big challenge for us, eh?
The ley lines are important.
I think this has been a good one, because it's kind of covered a lot of subjects, sort of capping over a bunch of subjects And it's been good.
Potentially
and,
be an introduction to future
to
talks
lots of
and
little ones.
deeper
Yeah,
dive
yeah,
into
we
the
could
other
go
stuff.
deeper into them all. I'm not looking forward to the climate change one. Right, guys, fist pumping.
Take care, man.
Cheers, man. And thanks for everyone
Thank you, guys.
for watching, and catch you on the next one.
Cheers, guys.
Big up.
Mark Passio, check him out. Natural Law Seminar.
Right. Who should they check out for you?
You should also look up David Cowan, who this chap
David
mentioned.
Cowan,
He's
yeah.
got several books on ley lines. He's on Facebook, got lots of good stuff, videos on YouTube as well. David Cowan.
There's a website too.
And I don't know anything about all that stuff, but if you're not into hip hop, go and check out RZA. Right, guys, catch you on the next one. Peace.